Maybe not for her, but.
So this morning, again, the basis of this, good morning, the basis of this is a game plan for you to have 5 people at your Saturday training, okay? And the reality of the situation is that 5 is a magic number, and I'm having a very, very strange deja vu right now, which I'm actually incredibly excited about. Okay, so we've had this conversation before. One of you gets mad because you want 15, and so you miss the entire point at the end of it, so I might as well tell you now, you might as well leave. I don't know which one of you it is, I can't remember. I just remember at the end, someone going, well, I need 15, and I'm like, well, then you miss the entire premise of what we're talking about. Because if you can't get excited about 5, you're never going to get to 15. And so maybe that was just telling you right now, this is the strangest thing imaginable right now. I'm actually having fun.
Do you have a matrix moment or something?
I actually am. It's like a very, 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 very bizarre thing right now. And it fires me up. These are the things that get me excited. So if at the end you're going to be mad that you don't have 15, then pay attention to what we're talking about, because you're silly. I don't know, maybe it's someone online. Okay, why? Because you can't get to 15 without 5, right? And if you and I understand that this is a neutral assessment, that our I am is what it is, it's neither good nor bad, it simply is, then we can start where we stand. Right now, we've got 5 people in the room. Now look around. How many of you would like to have the people in this room on your team? Right? I'd love to have the people, right? Because we've got independent leaders that are starting to learn and grow. Now, here's the thing. How hard is it for us to go from 5 to 25? It's actually not that hard. Because, Elvira, we could get 4, 5, 6 people on your team in a relatively short period of time, couldn't we? Tony, we could get 4, 5, 6 people on your team in a relatively wait. We could get 4 or 5, so we can get back. But you guys understand that if each of us show up with 5 people, in the next little bit, that's 25 people overnight. The benefit of this is you don't have to bring 25 to benefit from the 25. Right? And so part of what we've got to be able to do is to start this process, right? To go from 5 to 25 would be an incredibly exciting thing. To go from 1 to 5 would be an incredibly exciting thing, right? But to go from 5 to 25 as a group allows us to believe that the 5 that we get could go to 5 fast. If it takes us 2 years, for you to get 5, then it's going to be, if it takes 2 years from today, each of us to get 5, so 2 years from now we have 25 people, that's not inspiring for our 5 people. But if in the next 60 days, each of us had 5, if we started from 5 to 25, couldn't we turn to the 5 that we've got 60 days from now and say, look, we know in the next 60 days each of you could have 5, but now that we each have 5, it might not take 60 days, it might take 45 days. But if each of us did that, you understand, in 95 days, that's 125 people. It doesn't take forever. This would be easier with my elbow. For some reason it's not working. Okay, so I
think he's figured out what the issue is. The Elmo has had.
guys, thought I had a solution.
Brett, try unplugging and plugging back in. You tried that one yet? Over there.
I did when I first started.
Oh, you did? Okay.
Yeah, it's up there. So I haven't fixed it there. So, and if I didn't have to leave, I would, but I don't want to waste time. Okay. So does this make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And so the premise of this is we start where we stand. Okay. So the first thing I want you want everyone to do is what is the action? I wish we had this. Okay. So what is the action? Right? If we're to be able the biggest movement process, if we want to be able to do something, wide is our action. WIDE. Right? So what is our action? If we sit there and say, okay, we want to go from 1, because you count, to 5, what actions do we need to take? The action, the habit that we've got to be able to go, we've got to get in the habit of turning to wide. Right? So here's what I would like us to do. For the next couple minutes, I would like you to write down the 10 people that come to mind, and you might not know them all, but who are 10 people that you went, I could either turn to because I think they could do the business, or these are the people I could turn to ask, hey, I need your help, who do you know? Either one. Does this make sense? Okay, so I'm going to repeat it. Who are the 10 people? Either the ones that you could go, I want you in my business, or the ones that you could turn to and say, I'm on a mission and I need your help. Who do you know? With the goal of 5 people. So you might have 2 of them, might be people on your team. Emma is one, she's on your list. Why? Because she could very easily be here if being here was a priority. Wendy could be on your list. Why? Because Wendy could very easily be here if it was a priority. Does that make sense? Shaq and Melissa are on that list. Why? Because they could be here if it was a priority. So now we need 8 more. Okay, now when you're done with that list, now what I want you to do is I want you to separate it into different columns, right? The one that's your scout team, the one that you would turn to and say, I need your help, put them under a list that would be under scout team. The ones that you're saying, I would like to recruit, now put them under bullpen. Now, if you're like, they're not quite bullpen, they're hot, then differentiate, make 3 groups, right? What's the difference between your bullpen and your hot? So when you look at this, you have an active list of these 10. So if they're scout team, I want you to put them together. Who are the 2 or 5 or 12, whatever, on your scout team? Who are the ones on your bullpen? If they're not quite ready for bullpen, who are the ones in your hot that we can move to? No, it's interesting because like Wade's got a guy, David, who lives far away, who's not going to be plugging into most Saturdays, might come once a month or something like that. So Wade can very easily go, well, David's not going to be able to plug in, so that doesn't count, right? Right? He's not really something to do. But I have a question. As part of Wade's business, where does Wade's mind go? Where could Wade's mind go? If his goal is to get to 5 people on Saturday, and he's got a gentleman who's not going to participate in most of the meetings, does that mean his name is David, does that mean David's irrelevant in the growth of 5 people to Wade's team on Saturday?
No.
Why?
Because I can build David's team.
You can build David's team. So what do we need to do to build David's team? What's the first thing we need to do to build David's team?
Make building David's team a priority.
Well, but what we have to what? Well, but what do we focus on with David? Okay, what's our objective with David? Is the objective with David to build David's team right now? To build a list? No. What's the objective with David? As a game plan for Wade to give 5 people to his meeting. So he's got David on his list, right? So he's got to get wide. He wrote up David. He identified and assessed, okay, here's a guy who's doing the business but is far away, isn't going to actively involve, right? So he's got to develop a game plan. Now, the game plan for Wade's business, not for David's business right now, but for Wade's business is 5 people coming to a meeting on Saturday consistently. I'm setting that as a goal for every one of us, right? That is the next phase of goal. Is Elvira, 5 people. Now now, do we still need to learn the training camp stuff? Absolutely. Do we still need to get our security license? Absolutely. All of that stuff is part of it. But if what Wade's measurable goal is for the next phase of growth is Wade's goal is key to say, I need 5 people on a Saturday consistently. Zoo to be, I need 5 people on a Saturday consistently. Tony, I need 5 people on a Saturday consistently on my team. Elvira, I need 5 people on a Saturday, right? We need Camacho 5, we need Cindy 5, we need Yadira 5, we need Wade 5, right? Brett 5. Oh, that makes sense? Because now there's a collective growth that occurs. Is this making sense? So, David is on Wade's list. But what's David's focus supposed to be?
Hours and quizzes.
Hours and quizzes. Why? Because we can't build David's team until is David going to go see a bunch of people before he's licensed? So is David going to recruit people before he's licensed? No. So what part of Wade's goal is, Wade needs to get David to finish his hours and quizzes in order for Wade to have someone contribute to the growth of his 5. Does this make sense? Why is this important? If it's an arbitrary thing, if Wade looks at David and says, I've got to get David to finish his hours and quizzes because I've got to get David to finish his hours and quizzes, is there any urgency for Wade to instill for David to finish his hours and quizzes? Does this make sense?
Yeah, because if you think of that, then David will just finish wherever David finishes, and that's a win because that's the goal.
And that's the goal, and it fits, and we're trying to be aligned. So we're like, hey, what's the big deal, right? We're trying to be supportive. We're trying to be, right? But as the longer it takes David to finish his hours and quizzes, the less impact David has on growing Wade's Saturday team attendance. Right? The longer it takes for you to pass your test, how many appointments are we going on? None. So are you helping us grow? No. If my goal is to grow, you're not helping us grow right now. Why? We're waiting. You have 1,072 people you imported to the SSD. 1,072 in your market that we're going to cultivate over the next 18 months. Are all of them good? No, but Homeboy Camp brought in 1,000 people. Do you think there's a part of me that's like, oh, I cannot wait for this guy to start working this because he doesn't know what to say. He's not, but how is he going to learn what to say? He's going to have to say it, but he can't say it until he goes on appointments. Can't go to appointments until he passes his test. So everything we do is about creating the environment for Tony to pass his on test. Right? Elvira, you pass your test. We're like, okay, who's the list? We've got to start working. We've got to start identifying. Where's this? Right? You're supposed to bring me your list. We're supposed to put this together so we can import. We're still working on creating that space. The problem is I can't get Elvira to completely dial in on the list until she decides that it's important to dial in a list, but she's not going to grow her 5 people on her Saturday until she dials in her list. But I can't get her to dial in her list completely. But what I can do is I can get Tony to dial in his list because Tony's excited about dialing in his list. So all of a sudden, Elvira just heard Tony put 1,000 people in his SSD that he's going to actively start working. So now Elvira's like, so what's the SSD and how? What do you mean at that? Like, what do I do with that? So now Elvira turns to her list with the 6,000 families that she's got access to that she knows about. And it's like, well, wait a second here. Tony's starting to do this and he's about to pass his test. So we can start. Does this make sense?
When you say, and this may be slowing it down, but when you say coming to Saturday consistently, what do we define consistent?
You want 5 people on your Saturday consistently. You don't need the same 5 people coming consistently, but you want a business of a minimum of 5 people. Phase 1, boom, walk in, you got 5 people.
I know, but I'm assuming that when we would want to go to 10, there's some number where we go, okay, now we have them coming consistently. Is there like a number of weeks in a row where we consider?
No, because they're gonna look. We're building this is a different. So let me phrase the theory.
I need 15.
I know. So let me phrase the theory of this so that we get this and that. We're building the greatest part-time opportunity in the history of the world. Cindy's son's birthday was a couple days ago, and she's having a party day. She sent me a text on, "Hi, Cindy. She's not able to make it this morning." We've got an environment where that's incredibly okay. But Cindy not being here affects our number. Yadira's got to work in the month of June and May and June, so she's not going to be here, right? But that affects our number. So right now, what we don't have is enough of the piston theory that's plugging in so that we have a consistent number. We want a consistent 25 coming. So the easiest way to consistent 25 is to get 10 focused on consistently getting 5. You're going to get 5, but you're not going to have 5 people.
Wow. So to get 5 consistently, we probably need to have 20 people on our team.
You probably need about 11.
I see. Okay.
To create a safe place for them to do that. And then when you've got 11, sometimes we'll call, and then what happens is when we get 11 to 15, right, then we're going to call a meeting that says, okay, now we're at 30 people consistently for a month. Guys, we got to go to 90. So here's the thing. Wade, Bill, Frank, Kim, and Sally, man, you realize your team could be 20. So Cindy or Bill writing all this stuff. What do we got to do to get you to 5? And so when we've got them coming to some degree, and there's an opportunity for them to see that they can contribute to growth, we spin it. But phase 1, I don't know what that's going to look like. What I do know is when we've got 4, 5, 6 people with 5, there's a platform to move it quickly. Does this make sense? And what happens is the psychological problem is when we've got 5 people in a room, if Elvira's got 2 guests and 5 people, there are 5 people in the room and 2 guests show up, we feel weird about the 2 guests. Because the 2 guests walk in and they're like, this is it? And there's a psychological stigma to it. And so part of what we've got to do is, Wade, you and I were talking about this yesterday, but part of what we've got to do is we've got to lock in a cement system that says, okay, you're going to get 5, and you're going to get 5, and you're going to get 5, and you're going to get 5, I'm going to get 5, and if we commit to each other that we're going to each grow this thing, then there's a better chance that instead of 2 coming in, there's 6. And then we spin it up. Because guess what? We're going to feel the way we feel right now when there's 5 with 30. We're gonna get stuck at 36, and for weeks we're like, because it's full, but it's not. There's enough chairs, and you're like, eh. And then they're gonna have 90, and it's just that's the spin up. Is this making sense? So, but what happens is that Tony goes, man, I gotta help Emma get her hours and quizzes done because Emma's gotta help me grow my 5. But I can't go to Emma and say, you gotta help me grow my 5. Just like I can't go to you and say, you got to help me grow my 25. Well, Brett, you're having this conversation because you want to grow the meeting to 25. You're right. I want to grow my base shop meeting attendance to 25. But I can't, Elvira, help me get my 25. You have no interest in that, do you? Like, I'm a nice guy and I've helped out, but you're not motivated to help me get my 25. But I can be open and honest. I got to get this thing to 25 for all of us. Just like when you got 5 to 6, you're going to have to get it to 15 to help everybody on your team. And then you're going to have to get it to 25 to help everybody on their team. But you can't talk to them about helping you get to 25, but you sure as hell can help them get to 5. And if you get to 5 and I get to 5 and 5, come on, like, here's an opportunity. So you look at your team and you're like, okay, what's my game plan for David? Okay, I've got to finish his hours and quizzes. And while he's finishing his hours and quizzes, I've got to start getting him thinking about his top 10. But I'm not talking about it now, but that's part of it. Why? Because I need a top 10? No, because that's how you're going to feed your 5. Does this make sense? Anyone not clear about this? This is really, 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 really important to have it very, very clear. If we spend the next 30 minutes on this, that's fine. Make sense? So we've got to get Shaq and Melissa to take their tests. Why? And pass. Why?
Because they want to start making money.
Okay, one, they want to start making money. But what can't we do until they take their test?
Well, as soon as they pass their test and they're able to recruit, that's going to be their main focus.
Well, we can't even talk to them. Shaq's met 50 new people, hasn't he?
Right.
How many of them have you met or has he talked to you about?
About 6 of them.
Okay, so all of a sudden, but none of us are moving towards growing with their team. Why? Because he's got a roadblock. Does that make sense? If we never get Shaq to take his test again, are you going to meet those 6 to 60 people? Probably not. But if Shaq has his test, what's the likelihood of him making Saturday a bigger priority? So now you just doubled in size. And what's the likelihood of him taking this message to the 6 to 60 people that he knows? Better? Now all of a sudden, what's the likelihood of 2 or 3 going, man, I want to participate in this? Now your meeting attendance just went from 1, you, to 4 overnight. Now you're learning how to manage his team and your folks, because those are all skills. So we look at this going, okay, now we've got what are the habit we get into is getting wine. Okay, so we've got who's our scout team, right? Some of you might not, right? Tony probably doesn't have a bunch of people on a scout team right now because he hasn't got through. Wade's probably got a handful of people on a scout team. I've got a bunch of people on my scout team. Sue's got a problem. But the problem is we can't go to our scout team unless we have a direct mission. If you go to your scout team and say, I need your help, I need to grow, there's something missing. If you say, look, we have a call that this is what we need to be able to be a part of. I have a mission I'm trying to get accomplished in the next 90 days, and I'm turning to people who, do you know anybody that? Now there's a directive to be able to pull. Just like we need to get David to finish his hours and quiz, not for the sake of finishing his hours and quizzes, but he can't help us grow the meeting attendance until he's finished his hours and quizzes. Right? Tony and I started going on appointments. We've actually been on a couple appointments, recruiter. Why? Because now he's waiting for his test. He doesn't actually have to pass his test to be able to do anything. Why? Because we know that that first part's done. Now he's waiting to sit for it. This make sense? So the question becomes, Elvira, how long do you want it to take before you got 5 people on your team coming to a Saturday? But you're right, it's not the same 5 necessarily because we've got to create that space. So we need 11 people who can participate. So one of the things we need is we need to get, right? So I'm going to reach out to Victor this week and we really have to dial in our licensing class, right? I've got to make sure, I've got to talk to him, and if he's not going to be able to do it consistently, then we'll have to figure out the next phase. We've got to get a solution to that. But we have to have a legitimate licensing training class that's here every Saturday that's consistent in place. Why? Because it's the easiest way to get new people to come to Saturdays. Once they finish 10 or 12 hours and they're like, oh my God, how am I going to do this? They can come, they can get the cheats, they can figure out how to do it, and they know they're going to pass the test because now it's worth it to be able to make the drive to come up. Because look, we can teach you in 6 hours to 3 2-hour trainings. That's a whole lot better than sitting in a class for 32 hours. So you could go sit in a class for 32 hours. You get to sign in, sign out. You can get all the tools. You could come here for 3 2-hour trainings. 3 2-hour trainings makes a lot more sense than 32 hours in a class. So I'll work with him to make sure that we get that dialed in because that's an important component to what we're doing. Now the fun thing is, for those of us that have been around for a little bit, we've not been talking about growing, you know, like this is a new Saturday. People are like, holy shit, this is like, we're actually talking about the business now. Yes. Because we know what's the problem, Tony?
Setting them down.
Are
Stuck in different ways.
and they don't know it. Elvira, what's the solution? The solution is access. Access to the financial education and the tools and a path to ownership. Wait, what's the only method to be able to make that, to be able to deliver that access to that group of people? It's the strategic partnership.
Oh, right, okay, sorry.
No. right? So Sue, what do we got to focus on? We got to focus on leveraging our partners and growing our support system. If we know that the problem is 70 million families are stuck and they don't know it, the only solution to solving that group of people to get them financially secure and with a shot to freedom is access. Access to financial education and tools, access to a path to ownership. The only way to deliver that solution to that group of people, because they don't know it, is the strategic partnership. It's the only way, because they don't know it. So no commercial in the world is going to get them to accept they have a problem because they don't know it. The only way they're going to own the problem is if their best friend sits down with them, or someone they've known sits down with them and says, here's what we learned, and it gives them an opportunity to accept and discover that they too have this problem. Once the friend shows them that the friend doesn't have the training and the skill to be able to solve those problems by themselves, because they are not hardcore full-time financial services experts and gurus. They're good at relationships. And so since we've got to be able to do that, they've got an opportunity to leverage Primerica, because Primerica is a full-time hardcore entrepreneurial opportunity that's growing as financial services experts. And so they've got a partnership to be able to do that. And we need a multiple generation follow-up system. And so the back office support company walks them through that. And so the only way to solve the problem of access to this group of people is through the strategic partnership method. Guys, you got to get this language dialed in. You got to get the order in place. You got to know it off the top of your head, just like the lineup. It's where you go in a conversation. It's clean. It's not a little clean. It's out of control clean. Take it to that next level. Take that page, this 7 things, get this piece of paper, brand it in your brain. Because this is what you're going to practice communicating. And you're going to suck in the beginning. And you're going to be all over the place. And you're going to talk to people like they know what you're talking about. And if you'll actually read their feedback, you'll realize how bad you suck. And that is a huge gain. Because if you think you're good and you're not, well, I told them, who are they to that? You're an idiot. And we've all been idiots, have we not? Okay? But there's no reason to be. This piece of paper is the cleanest thing you possibly can have, upside down and backwards, because you can get into any conversation anywhere. You can get into at a basketball game. You can talk about any one of these, and you're not selling insurance. You can have it macro, worldview problems. You can have it micro. You can use the 4 principles for the products. You can use the 4 principles for ownership. You've got access to all of it. So once we know what the problem is, once we know what the solution is, once we know what the methodology is, once we know what the focus is, once we know the tools that we've got, now we're in charge of what conversations are we putting together. Well, sorry, I wasn't expecting that 6-minute diatribe right there. I was thinking that we were going to have it dialed in. And so I don't actually remember why I brought it up in the first place. But we've got, so the biggest piece that we've got to be able to create is these little things, these 5 people. We need 5 people on your team on a Saturday as fast as possible. We need 5 people, Tony, on your team to Saturdays as fast as possible. Wade as fast as possible. Sue as fast as possible. Me as fast as possible. Camacho as fast as possible. Austin Haney as fast as possible. Yamir as fast as possible. Cindy as fast as possible. Donna Cat as fast as possible. The fun thing is that if we put this together, you'll be as fast as possible. If we get 10, 12, 15, 18 people focused on growing 5 as fast as possible, a couple things happen. If I get David Camacho, Yadira, Cindy, Yubi, and Oscar all focused on 5 people to Saturdays as fast as possible, what's the first thing that happens? Are any of those people here right now? The first thing is all of a sudden, here's another 5 or 6 people who show up more often because they're trying to grow their Saturday. So what do they need to be? Be here. So now we went from 5 to 10, that passed. Now there's 10 people here on a Saturday. Now all of a sudden, if the goal is 25 at the beginning, and we go from 5 to 10, now everyone doesn't have to have 5 at the same time in order to get to the 25. The 10 only have to have 2 to get to 25 at the same time, because no one knows, right? If you have 5 and you have 5 and you have 5 and you have 5 and I have 5 and 2 new people show up, they don't know that you have 5 and you have 5 and you have 5, they just know there's 25. And they're like, wow, 25 is more than 5. Well, if we go from 5 to 10 and then the 10 go to 25, the 2 show up, they still see the 25 right here. Is this helping at all? Because building a company starts with you and your intention. If our job is to grow a distribution company, because there's 70 million families stuck and the only way to solve it is, then we need to grow our distribution company. Now, let's make sure that we put this in place. Should I get mad at David Camacho for not being here today? Do I want to? See, who does David Camacho not being able to make it here today, who does that affect? It affects him and his business, doesn't it? But how does it affect me? The only thing it affects right this second is my ego. How does it affect my ego?
Because you think what your ego thinks what you're providing is important, and him choosing not to be here offends your ego, because it's not you, but it could anyone's ego, because it's like it's not important enough to him to. It's like judgment on you.
Okay, so that's one option.
I'm not saying that's what you do.
No, that's a good option.
We'll go there.
That's a good option, but that option only affects me. What's that?
There's not the people in the room that you would want to.
Yeah, well, but because I like to count. If you have 3 people on your team right now, and I'm having the exact same conversation, but you have David and Billy,
It's 300% more effective in your business.
300% more effective in your business. But how are you feeling right now? So think about this, right? If you've got 3 people, if Wendy and Emma are here right now, nothing else has changed. Everything is the same. You're here alone. You got Wendy and Emma, or Shaq and Melissa, or I don't care. Every one of you put your 2 other people in the room. And I'm having the conversation of each of us have to get 5 people here on your team. If you got 3 and Wade's got none, what happens to your ego? Honestly, don't you normally go, I only got to get 2 more? As silly as it is. So when they're not here, we feel potentially if someone else had, so if your folks aren't here and Jack and Melissa are, and I'm having the exact same conversation, and now all of a sudden, how do you instantly feel about Emma and Wendy if I'm having this conversation and Elvira's got 3 and you've got none? Don't you instantly go, man, they should have been here. For them, in that moment, are you frustrated for them? This is not a trick question. You all just felt it. Are you frustrated? Come on, guys. You need to be incredibly honest with yourself right now. This is where you screw up. You rationalizing this really simple question because you don't like the answer. You're not frustrated for them in that moment. You're only frustrated for you. If you can't own that, you can't lead because you can't fix it. You'll constantly maneuver it around and go, no, it's really about. No, in that exact moment, not in every moment. Did I say in every moment? No, I said in that exact moment.
Not any conversations going on.
Just the people here in that moment when you walk in, it's a normal instinct. If Wade's got 3 people, right? If your 2 new people are here, and your people are here, and your people here, so how do you feel like if instantly we're having this conversation, you're like, oh, but not for your people in that moment, for you. And there's nothing wrong with that. We like that. Competition and feeling, that feeling is good if you allow yourself to give it language and go, oh, I'm not frustrated. Why? Because that's the moment when your ego's in charge that you talk to your people in a way not for them, but for you. And if you talk to your people for you, you will blow them out. And you will ignore the impact. You'll blame them. And it's not about creating that space. I don't want a team where all of us are concentrating on getting 5 people here. And if the people aren't, we treat them like shit because we're trying to get our ego. That's not the business we're building. But the only way that works is if you're honest with yourself. If I'm honest with myself. When Camacho's not here, when Cindy sent me the text, there's a part of me in that moment that goes, son of a bitch. Why? Because I know that with the conversation we're going to have, and I know that they're better off if we have the conversation, but I also know that I'm talking to 4 people and not 10. And my ego looks out in the room and goes, son of a, are we kidding? And it's critical that I know that. Because if I don't know and accept that, I'm lying to myself and I will treat them poorly.
You may not treat them poorly, but on the inside, you may have an emotional feeling about it, and that will transfer.
Well, so therefore, I will treat them poorly.
No, just for myself.
Yeah, I won't purposefully go, well, I'm going to ignore them and treat them like crap.
I know.
But when I call them, I'm going to go, so, with Cindy, so I hope the party's great because I'm trying to be positive,
right.
But I'm pissed. But I'm not even pissed for her. I'm pissed for me for no reason. Does this make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Guys, we have to be, it's critical that we're able to be honest with ourselves in this because we have to be able to manage our emotions. We have to be able to manage our ego. We have to be able to give it language. Why? Because we're people and we're building a business with people. And if you can't articulate and if you can't own that your ego's in charge every once in a while, then you won't be able to help your people navigate their emotions. And yes, you will be a little short, a little curt, or a little sarcastic, or a little snarky. And it has nothing to do with them. Why? Is this a good meeting? Yeah. Guess what? If my instincts are right and I'm in alignment, is it better if Cindy was here? Absolutely. But I don't need Cindy here for me. I need Cindy here for Cindy. But we also record the damn thing. And so if my heart's in the right place, and I understand it, then I'm talking to Cindy, dude, you got to pay attention to this. You got to put in some time to watch this meeting. I'm telling you, there's something there. Now, it would have been better if you'd have been there, but I totally understand it because we're creating the best part-time opportunity in the history of the world. And so we want a space where people plug in and plug out. Why? Because people are going to. And if it's not safe for them to plug in and plug out, what are they going to do? They're going to plug out forever. And that doesn't help us. Or them. Do I work my ass off to make sure the Saturdays are as good as they possibly can be? So you're like, no, I had a million things that I got to do today, but I'm going to be here. Yes, my goal is for you to realize that that's a tool, but it's a whole lot better to be here and to use that as a support tool than to use it as a primary tool. That's my goal to always do. I don't always succeed. But more often than not, I think they're pretty valuable. And that's the pieces that we grow. Is this, y'all with me? Why? I love your ego. I want it to grow. Tony, I want you to be like, I want to be the first one to get 5. I want that. I want if I were to go, this kid's not going to be the first one to get 5. I want that. Why? Because then it becomes fun. But in that moment, we also need to understand that getting the 5 and treating them like crap doesn't build you a business. The objective is 5 is going to lead to 15. And so everything we do to get 5 is designed to build it to 15. And building it to 15 is designed to get it to 50. Why? Because you can go RVP when you get 50 people on a team. So one of the biggest goals is, how long is it going to take you to get 50 people on a Saturday coming? Because the moment you got 50 people coming to a Saturday, within 90 days of you getting 50 people coming to a Saturday, you have 110% contact. Now some of us go, I got to get 50? Holy shit. No, you got to get 5. But we build 5 in the way, the 5 is going to grow to 15.
Yeah, and then the 15 just goes to 45. That,
If you get wide and instill the habits. Because you get to go back to your market. When you've gone from 5 to 15 to 20, you got to go back to your scout team again and go, oh my God, it worked. Now we're dialing into the next run. And now you're, like, we build a support system because you're growing a company. I've missed these conversations.
Brett, I need 15. How does this help me?
You see how destructive those little things are? Here's the fun. You look at your list. Each of us started with our list. I did the same thing. You start with your list and you're like, could I get 5 from this list in the next 30 days, 60 days, 90 days? Now, let me make sure I put my little commercials on here. This is the first meeting in this office ever that we've ever had, ever, that could leverage the concept of the lineup, of the problem and the solution as an entrepreneur. Ever. Y'all understand what the word ever means? First, ever. Does that make sense? Why is that important? That means what you did yesterday with that list is irrelevant. Well, I've been doing this for. No, you haven't. You insecure child. I'm talking to myself sometimes. How can I be frustrated if we haven't been growing? How could I be frustrated that we haven't been growing if we haven't been clear? None of it matters. Everything has been designed to get here. Everyone on Wade's list has been prepared for right now. If Wade looks at his list and goes, man, I've told this story 27 times to all these people, I can't go back to them, that's his baggage. It's a completely different story. Which means the past is zero predictor of the future. We've been live on this stuff for 4 months, 5 months. January 4th, we closed here's what we're doing. We spent the first quarter of this year figuring out how to translate, building this piece of paper. In essence, we spent the first 5 months of the year building this piece of paper. So that I could go to Elvira and go, what's the problem? What's the solution? What's the methodology? Like, that took 4.5 months. Great. But now it's done. We don't have to spend another 4.5 months. We've locked in these advances. We could literally, the first time I did it, we didn't even know what it was. Now you know what it is. Look, if you were to, I went through this last Saturday and said, this is the single most important piece of paper. And everyone went, okay, hey, we have a really important piece of paper. And then my goal is at some point we're going to walk in and have this shit dialed in. And you're going to be like, oh my God, I got into a conversation about the methodology yesterday. Just kind of, it was amazing to talk about the power of a strategic partnership just in a random conversation. Because we own this piece. But we now can go to our list and pull any one of these 7 conversations. Why do we need people? Well, because we know what the problem is, we know what the solution is, we know what the methodology is, we know what the solution is, right? The market, the opportunity, the elements are in place. We now need to grow. It's done. And in a couple minutes, we're going to turn on the broadcast, and you're going to hear $1 million earners, and you're going to ask yourself, are these $1 million earners as clear as you are? And if the $1 million earners you're about to watch aren't as clear as you are, best we make you $1 million earner. How do we make you $1 million earner? 5 people on a Saturday. We start with our list. 5 people on a Saturday. We start with our list. 5 people, 5 people, 5 people. I want 50. Great. You can't get to 50. You will never get to 50 if you want 50. Ever. And you won't get to 5 until you get 2. And if you walk out of this meeting frustrated that you don't have 5, you miss the entire point of the entire thing. So let me ask this last thing and then we'll pull this up. What's the most important thing about Tony getting 5? Somebody.
It starts to create the culture so that other people look at it and want the same thing.
That's for the group. What's the most important thing for Tony? What's the most important thing for Wade to get 5?
To be able to model first team.
To what?
To be able to model first team.
One step before that.
Well, if you can get 5, you can get 10.
The skill of getting 5. The skill of getting 5. Because then when you have the skill of getting 5, you can get 10 and you can teach people. Do mine. The skill of getting 5. When someone goes, wait, when Wade has 15 or 50 and his team goes, how'd you do it? Wade goes, here's how you get 5. And then when we got 5, we got good. And I was able to get 5 at the same time. Tony was getting 5, Navarro was getting 5, I was getting 5, Dave was getting 5, Dave was getting 5. And so we had a culture of that. But then once we had 5, we had another meeting and said, okay, how do each of us get 5? And luckily, Wade doesn't have to go to Target to get 5. He's got to go to a scout team. He's got to go to the rest of the bullpen. He's got to go to his now list and his then list. And he's more sophisticated as an owner, so he's got the infrastructure in place to be able to dial in the next round of his 5. But he goes to his folks, and they're dealing with their bullpen. And so they're top 10. So how hard is it for them to get 2? If you've got 5, 2, 3, 4, it's not that hard. Why? What's the problem? What's the solution? What's the methodology? What's focus? Clean, 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 clean. 70 million families are stuck. The greatest part-time opportunity in the history of the world. Could your family use an extra $1,000 a month? Yes. Can we deliver it? If you get licensed, can you make an extra $1,000 a month? Abso-freaking-lutely. And when we've got 30 people making an extra $1,000 a month part-time, how many think when we have 30 people making $1,000 a month part-time, it's a lot easier to get the next 30 to make $1,000 a month part-time? And when we've got 60, how many think we're going to go from 60 to 200 like that? And we're going to go from 200 to 1,000 like that. But we got to get to 30. Well, we can't get 30 until we get to 5. So we've got AA'z night this Wednesday. I want to talk. We'll talk with turn to your list. We'll communicate. Get what you and I got to meet. We got to meet. We got to kind of put this stuff together. But who's this list? What is the game plan? Let's each of us get 1 or 2 people to the meeting. Why? Because no one's coming to Saturday until they come to Wednesday. Well, I'll just have them come to Saturday. Could you imagine a brand new person sitting in this meeting? How helpful is that going to be for them? And we're going to have multiple meetings as we grow, but we're not ready for multiple meetings, so we've got to run this thing right. Does this make sense? Mm-hmm. So Elvira, 5 people on Saturday? Is that something in the next 60 days you'd like to commit to?
Yes.
Tony? Wade? Sue? I will. You guys understand? That gives us a platform to grow, and now we get to spend the next couple Saturdays, the next couple Wednesdays. How do we do? And it starts with the habit of getting 5. Because once you have that list, you now can game plan. You develop a game plan for each of the people on that list. What conversation do I need to have with David? What conversation do I need to have with Bill? What conversation do I need to have with Frank? Because they might be very different conversations. What conversation do I need to have with Emma? We need to see the value of Saturdays because we're going to get her license and we got to get her hours and quizzes done. So how do we leverage that? What do we do with Melissa and Shaq? What are those tools? What are those resources? How do we get that done? How do we piece that together? It's not about Wade getting David to Saturday. Why? Because is David going to come to Saturdays? No.
But getting David his hours and quizzes done.
Yeah.
And imparting the urgency of him to do those things so that he gets licensed and wants to build a team. And how do you build a team? You get 5 people to Saturday.
And so you go see your top 10. And when you go see the top 10 and you tell our story because you're locking them in, are you going to invite them up to be a part of this? Absolutely. And now all of a sudden, David might have 5 people to his house and his big screen TV plugging into the meeting. That could, in 2 months, David could very easily have 5 people at his house running a Saturday training. We have the resources. But we don't get creative with that and figure out if we don't create the want. And we don't create the want if our ego's like, well, I need to get 5 people, so I got to figure out, how do I get David to come? You, Blake, and don't.
Right.
You put David in a position where it makes sense for David to take his next step. Because the only reason that Wade would try to get David here is just for Wade. And if you own that, if you're okay with that, if that's safe for you to talk about, and it's not an ugly thing, it's just a real thing, you have so much more power. Because it's okay to have that ego. You just need to know it. Look, I count. Look, we're going to go to Atlanta, and I'm going to see all my friends making shit ton of, my ass going to be on fire. But I need to know. Otherwise, I'm going to say shitty things. I'm going to undermine. I'm going to do all because I'm not in charge, because my ego is in charge. Why would I do that? Why would I jeopardize who I am? No, it's okay to have my butt on fire. It's okay to be uncomfortable. It's okay to have my ego talk to me, but I better be careful if my ego starts talking. Is that attractive? Do people want to follow that? No. If I want you here for me, you're going to know. If you know that my interests are more important to me than you, sooner or later when things get tough, you're going to bail from me. And you should. You should. It's enlightened self-interest. Do I want 25 people in a room? Yeah. What's the best way for me to do that? Help you get 5. So now I get to align my goals into helping you get 5. What if you don't want to get 5? Great. I want to give you, what can I do to make this valuable enough to where you bring 1? You. Are we going to have 5 with 5 to get to 25? No. We're going to have 2. Look, guys, we're going to have 2 with 7, 2 with 3, and 15 with 1 in the beginning. And we're going to have this meeting when there's 26 of us, and we're going to be like, okay, we went from 5 to 20. Okay, who wants to take this thing to 100, man? We got to take this thing to 100. So, Elvira, you ready for that 5? I'm ready for the 5. Tony, you ready for the 5? I'm ready for the 5. Wade, you're at 7. You ready to go to 20? Well, our team, are we ready to go to 7? 7's there. All right, so the only way Wade's going to go to where? Billy, you ready to go to 5? Yeah. Frank, you ready to go to 5? Yeah. Don, you ready to go to 5? Well, 5, 5, 5, that's 15. Wade, do you think you and the other 3 people might be able to find 2 more people? I need to be able to say that. Why? I'm not challenging Wade's ego, but at that point, if Wade's like, yeah, I will, right, then he misses all the shit we're trying to get done. Because his ego's in charge in that moment, and he misses it. And he makes it unfun. I'm like, well, shit, I can't mess with Wade anymore because Wade's not in charge of his ego. So now I got to put Wade on the side, and I got to work with Tony. Does this make sense? It's so teachable, it's ridiculous. Why? Because we have this. Now we can teach every one of these. So, I love you guys. I'm proud of you. I'm sorry I gotta head out. It's Brett's last Special Olympics tournament, so I gotta go see that. This would be good. You don't have to stay, but I would. I think it'd be really, really good to watch at least some of this stuff. We got the meeting on Wednesday. Let's get here a little bit early, and then I'll be in touch with everybody over the next couple of days. Cool? Excited? 5? 5? 5? 5? Is this helpful? Cool. And then, so you know how to turn this stuff off.
People in front of these people